I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. It is so hard. You pour so much of your life into this thing. There are such rough moments in time that most people give up.
99% of small businesses you can start with next to no capital. It's more about effort. You know, small businesses don't fail for lack of capital. They fail for lack of brains. They fail for lack of effort. Most people just aren't willing to put in the time to work smart.
Make sure that whatever you're doing is a great product or service. It has to be really great. And I go back to what I was saying earlier, where if you're a new company, I mean, unless it's like some new industry or new market that, if it's an untapped market, or then you have more ability to, the standard is lower for your product or service. But if you're entering anything where there's an existing marketplace against large entrenched competitors, then your product or service needs to be much better than theirs. It can't be a little bit better, because then you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, and they say, why would you buy it as a consumer? You're always going to buy the trusted brand unless there's a big difference. So a lot of times, you know, an entrepreneur will come up with something which is only slightly better. And it can't just be slightly better. It's got to be a lot better.
Throughout the entire time, because I get a lot of people that tell me things like, hey, Pat, I have this great idea. And what do I do with this great idea I have with the company? Because I want to become an entrepreneur, but I don't have any money, so how do I become an entrepreneur? Almost every entrepreneur I know worked somewhere, made some money, saved the money, then they started a business. That's how it works. It's not just, I've never ran a business before, I've never had a job before, I've never done anything before, can you please give me $500,000? There's an evolution you got to get through to becoming an entrepreneur.
I advise you to seek out, as your partner in business, your partner in life, whatever it may be, look for the people that actually are examples to you, rather than somebody that you think you need to straighten out yourself.
And there was no personal computer in 1975. It's very hard to believe.
Well, that's why we made one.
Yeah.
We made one because we wanted one, and there wasn't one, so we had to make one.
I think a lot of companies, not so much these days, but still get started because some space is hot. And honestly, I don't think that's a very good reason to start a company.
I'm just not big on excuses. I just think if everybody has that opportunity to go for it, they just got to do it.
Well, you know, a lot of people say it's hard to get a loan right now if you're a small business owner, or you're trying to come up with an idea. How do you get the capital to start that business?
Well, first of all, if you're starting a business and you take out a loan, you're a moron. Right? Because there's so many uncertainties involved with starting a business, yet the one certainty that you'll have to have is paying back your loan.
You need to work, depending upon how well you want to do, and particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. So what does super hard mean? Well, when my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had just one computer, so the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. Work hard, like, I mean, every waking hour. That's the thing I would say, particularly if you're starting a company.
So, unless you have a lot of passion about this, you're going to not survive. You're going to give it up. So you got to have an idea, or a problem, or a wrong that you want to right that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you're not going to have the perseverance to stick it through. And I think that's half the battle right there.
And simple rules like that, delighting customers, working through other people, associating with people that will cause you to move in a better path than you might otherwise have, they will take you so far in life that it's hard to believe. I mean, they took Rose Blumpkin without being able to speak a word of English, and couldn't read or write.
So the neatest thing that happens is when you get a core group of 10 great people, it becomes self-policing as to who they let into that group. So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
You know, a lot of people like to make excuses. I don't have connections, I don't have money, I don't have this. But, you know, if you find something that you like to do or love to do, be great at it and see if you can turn it into a business. In worst case, you're going to have fun doing what it is you love to do. In best case, you can turn it into a business.
You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room.
Keep thinking about, are these efforts that people are expending, are they resulting in a better product or service? And if they're not, stop those efforts.
And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that. And I think that's the right path to take.
We've been a company now for 6 months, and yes, you could say that, well, we had a lawsuit for 4 of those months, and we had this and that. But the bottom line is the world doesn't really care. What the world cares about is what we produce. We've been a startup for 6 months. We've been spending money like we've been a startup for 6 months. And in some areas, we've really produced a lot. We've got a lot to show for 6 months in some areas. In other areas, we don't have a lot to show for 6 months.
And some mistakes will be made, by the way. Some mistakes will be made along the way. That's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes, we'll fix them. Some people will be pissed off. Some people will not know what they're talking about. But I think it is so much better than where things were not very long ago.